The year 2019 witnessed a harrowing event that profoundly shocked the entire state of Texas. A woman and her infant daughter abruptly went missing, drawing intense public attention from local residents who closely followed the search. Tragically, the narrative concluded with a sorrowful outcome. Yet the perpetrator of this horrific crime was utterly unforeseen. Heidi Broussard, age 33, was employed as a waitress at a restaurant within the modest town of Buda, Texas, which had a population of approximately 7,000. She was also enrolled in veterinary school, pursuing her aspiration of becoming a veterinarian. She had recently become engaged to Shane Carey, her partner of a decade. Their initial encounter occurred professionally while they were colleagues. They quickly developed a romantic connection and commenced their relationship. The couple had a son together, 5-year-old Silas, who was born while they were still living in an unspecified location. Heidi's friend was named Megan Faramusco. The girls instantly connected, forging a bond that would endure for 2 decades. Megan, also 33, worked as a wedding planner. When Heidi announced her second pregnancy in early 2019, Megan revealed that she was also expecting. Heidi was overjoyed by their shared pregnancies. She envisioned pleasant walks with her friend, sharing the delightful tasks and anxieties of child-rearing and offering mutual support. They began to spend considerable time together, meticulously planning every aspect of their pregnancies and post-birth arrangements. They purchased newborn clothing, a crib, and diapers, and attended childbirth preparation classes and the swimming pool jointly. Megan was even present at the births of both of Heidi's children, including baby Margot in November 2019, demonstrating the depth of their bond. The women dreamt of their future daughters becoming best friends just like them. At 7:30 a.m. on December 12, 2019, Heidi escorted her 5-year-old son, Silas, to school. At 2 p.m., the school contacted her fiancé, Shane, stating that Heidi had not returned to collect their son after school. This was unusual, as she had never before been late. Shane swiftly entered his vehicle and drove to the school, collected Silas, and proceeded homeward, anticipating finding Heidi and the baby there. He conjectured that Heidi and her daughter were tired. Perhaps she had simply fallen asleep and forgotten to pick up their son from school. However, a disconcerting revelation awaited him inside. The house was empty. The man dismissed any negative notions. He assumed that Heidi was likely out for a walk with the baby and had simply become oblivious to the passage of time. Shane attempted to reach his fiancée, but she remained unresponsive. He then considered that she might be with her closest friend, Megan, who was imminently expecting a child. He contacted Megan, but she asserted she had not encountered Heidi that day. This struck him as odd, as they communicated and met daily for walks. Shane commenced examining the residence for any indications, and when he observed that Heidi had left all of the baby's belongings at home, clothing, diapers, and food, as well as her wallet containing money and cards, and her car keys, he realized that something was amiss. She never departed the premises without these items. Shane grew increasingly apprehensive. He waited a little longer and then contacted 911 around 7 p.m. to file a missing persons report for them. The police arrived promptly and initiated a search for Heidi and the newborn. They searched the house and found no indications of forced entry or any signs of struggle. All belongings were methodically arranged. The police initially harbored suspicions regarding the woman's fiancé, as such cases often involve partners, but the man possessed an unassailable alibi. 33-year-old Shane had been at work throughout the day, which led them to exonerate him from any suspicion. Nevertheless, many continued to suspect his involvement with Heidi's disappearance. At that time, everyone was intensely discussing the egregious crime perpetrated by Chris Watson when he murdered his wife and 2 daughters. Many people believed it was a similar scenario and regarded Shane with skepticism. The man was giving interviews, and people scrutinized his behavior. He appeared disingenuous and culpable in their eyes, which fostered doubts concerning the veracity of his statements. Consequently, Shane was subjected to relentless harassment across social media platforms. The man stated that he last communicated with Heidi via telephone at approximately 8:30 a.m. She had informed him that she had dropped off their son at school, then attended a book fair with her daughter and purchased several books she eagerly anticipated reading. She also acquired children's books intended for reading to her son, Silas. Heidi cherished books and was curating a personal library within her residence. They exchanged farewells. The man returned to work, and the woman made no further contact with him. Detectives began to meticulously inspect the family's home and the surrounding vicinity. It was ascertained that Heidi's vehicle remained in the garage. Shane reported that she exclusively operated her personal vehicle and did not utilize ride-sharing or taxi services. This implied that she could not have traveled far and was likely in the immediate vicinity. The woman and child were issued an alert for their disappearance, prompting a localized search effort. While examining the area near the house, investigators discovered surveillance cameras at a neighbor's residence and requested the corresponding footage. They commenced reviewing the camera recordings and interviewing nearby residents. The footage showed Heidi, her baby, and her elder son departing for school at 7:30 a.m. She then returned to her residence with her daughter. Later, Heidi and her baby departed the house and entered a silver-colored automobile. The visual quality of the footage was substandard, failing to reveal the license plate or even the vehicle's make and model. This was the final instance Heidi was observed alive. A neighbor informed investigators that she had seen Heidi in their apartment complex that morning. She was holding a small child and approached a stationary vehicle. A woman exited the car and exchanged greetings with her. Then both women, accompanied by the child, entered the car and departed. It became evident that Heidi and the baby had entered another woman's vehicle. The police began to ascertain the identity of this unidentified woman. Heidi's partner asserted that the description of this silver vehicle resembled his friend's car. He was convinced it was her closest friend, Megan, because Heidi would not enter a vehicle with an unfamiliar person. Megan even possessed a spare key to their residence, provided for emergencies. Detectives contacted the friend, but she disavowed any involvement in Heidi's disappearance. The woman stated she had not encountered her that day and provided the police with some intriguing information. She harbored suspicions that Shane was implicated. According to her, Heidi had confided in her about her fiancé's alleged physical abuse. Shane purportedly consumed excessive alcohol and resorted to physical assault. Heidi had desired to depart from him on numerous occasions, but then she discovered her second pregnancy and consequently dismissed the notion, opting to grant him another opportunity. Shane proposed to her, and they were making preparations for their wedding. For some time, there was a period of reconciliation in their relationship, and everything appeared stable. But perhaps Shane reverted to his previous behavior, resorting to physical violence against her. Megan began to present a photograph of her friend displaying bruises as corroboration, but her assertion was met with skepticism. Upon closer examination of the photographs, it became clear that one photo showed an foredrip on her arm and the other a minor contusion, ostensibly from domestic violence. It did not resemble an incident of domestic violence. There was no corroborating evidence indicating Shane had indeed assaulted her. No police records related to Heidi's residence could be located, nor had she ever sought assistance, and Shane possessed no prior history of legal infractions. The man refuted the allegations. He cherished Heidi. They were intending to marry, and violence had never occurred within their relationship. Investigators sought additional surveillance cameras in the vicinity and located several nearby. They gathered the recordings and commenced their analysis. The footage was of superior quality, enabling detectives to identify the vehicle. They reached the unequivocal conclusion that the vehicle belonged to Megan. Shane corroborated the identification. It became evident that Megan had indeed met her friend that day, despite her denials. The motive, however, remained elusive. As the last individual to have seen the missing woman, she became the primary suspect in the abduction of Heidi and her child. Investigators were monitoring Megan's residence. The police observed her boyfriend, Christopher, driving away and proceeded to follow him. It turned out he had arrived at a store to purchase infant formula. The detectives approached him and presented him with a photograph of baby Margot held by Heidi. Christopher recognized the infant, confirming that this was the child Megan had presented as her own and that the baby was currently within the residence with her. At this point, all doubt regarding Megan's involvement was dispelled. The police secured a search warrant and returned to Megan's Houston residence, where they knocked on the door. The woman emerged from the house, holding a baby monitor and appearing visibly agitated. The infant was slumbering in her crib within the nursery. Megan asserted that the child was hers and that she was uninvolved in the disappearance of Heidi and her baby, but her statements were met with disbelief. Shane identified the infant as his daughter based on her facial features and attire. The infant was placed in the care of Child Protective Services and subsequently into foster care, while police conducted a search of the house for evidence. No incriminating evidence was discovered. However, upon exiting the premises, detectives and Texas Rangers observed Megan's vehicle, the identical silver car in which Heidi was believed to have departed. As they approached, an overpowering, putrid stench of decomposition, disturbingly familiar to them, emanated from the vehicle. When the police opened the trunk, they made a gruesome discovery. Inside were Heidi's remains encased within a large duffel bag. It was in an advanced state of decomposition. Megan was promptly apprehended. DNA analysis subsequently corroborated their suspicions. Megan had been harboring Heidi and Shane's infant within her home. The child was reunited with her father, who was left a widower with 2 children to care for, just days before the holiday season. The family had been preparing for Christmas, wrapping gifts, but now, on the eve of the holiday, their plans were shattered. They would no longer be able to celebrate Christmas as initially intended, as a complete family of 4. For a long time, Shane found it difficult to comprehend that Megan, who had been Heidi's closest friend for over 2 decades, could perpetrate such an act. The women were extremely close, mutually trusting, and never engaged in disputes. Such an outcome was entirely unforeseen. Megan contacted Shane daily following her friend's disappearance, inquiring about the progress of the investigation. Shane even conjectured that Megan was excessively preoccupied with Heidi and desired to spend every moment in her company. She exhibited jealousy and resentment when Heidi spent time with her husband and children in her absence. During the investigation, it was established that after Heidi's disappearance, Megan had indeed diligently monitoring the search efforts and the ongoing investigation. On her phone and computer, Megan searched online for details regarding Amber Alerts and information concerning the search. She entered Heidi Broussard into search engines 162 times. An autopsy revealed that Heidi had been asphyxiated both by manual strangulation and with a sledgehammer. The case was reclassified as a homicide, and the inquiry into the precise circumstances remained active. Megan asserted she had delivered a child at a birthing center in Udlendy, north of Houston, on December 10th, merely 2 days prior to Heidi's disappearance, bringing the infant home that very day. However, when questioned, she was incapable of recalling the precise name of the facility for investigative verification. Police reached out to every maternity hospital within the state, but no woman by the name of Megan Faramusco was registered. It was revealed that she had not sought care at any medical institution and was not registered as pregnant, but had deceived her boyfriend by claiming weekly doctor's appointments. Police traced the movements of Heidi's and Megan's mobile phones, ascertaining that they had traveled jointly from Buda to Megan's Houston residence, where the body was subsequently discovered within the vehicle. Megan's vehicle, containing Heidi's body, remained parked beside her boyfriend's house for an entire week. Megan operated this car daily, notwithstanding the increasingly unbearable odor of decomposition emanating from within. How did Megan's boyfriend, Chris, fail to detect this pungent odor? He was summoned for interrogation. Christopher told investigators that he and Megan had been in a relationship for approximately 2 years, but in March 2019, he grew weary of the arrangement and chose to end it, subsequently requesting that she vacate the premises. Megan vehemently opposed this, requesting to reside in a separate room within his home, citing an alleged lack of alternative accommodation. He felt pity for her and permitted her to remain. They occupied separate rooms within his residence and rarely interacted. He was unable to evict her, and upon learning of her alleged pregnancy, he opted to reevaluate their relationship. He only briefly touched Megan's abdomen a few times during her purported pregnancy, remaining unaware of its fraudulent nature. Christopher also admitted that he had not observed her abdomen uncovered due to their strained relationship, but he did note its apparent growth, failing to realize it was a feigned pregnancy. Whenever Megan scheduled a doctor's appointment, Christopher was out of town, and she did not extend an invitation. However, he admittedly had little desire to accompany her. He was also absent from town during the purported birth. Megan informed him that she had delivered a daughter on the beach during a walk, a claim she made upon his return home when he observed her holding the child. She claimed the birth had proceeded without complications, and she had not sought medical attention. Megan's family members video called her and remarked on her apparent contentment with the infant. Additionally, her relatives had visited Megan a few days prior to her alleged delivery, and in their estimation, she appeared pregnant. They had no reservations regarding her genuine pregnancy, as she was clad in a tight t-shirt and displayed a prominent abdomen. It was revealed that Megan had, in fact, never been pregnant. She had been simulating the condition throughout. The woman had simulated her pregnancy, defrauding everyone, including her former boyfriend, Christopher Green, who was led to believe her due date was December 1st. It was a 9-month, malevolent scheme to abduct Heidi's daughter even before her birth. This elaborate plan was conceived by Megan with the aim of reconciling with her boyfriend. Upon discovering the deception, he terminated their relationship and temporarily relocated to his mother's residence, feeling disquieted by the persistent media attention. Christopher was not subjected to any criminal charges. The police had no skepticism that he was oblivious to his girlfriend's intentions. He was merely a witness in the legal proceedings. Megan Faramusco herself hailed from a large family, having 9 siblings, with her youngest brother being only 9 years old. Consequently, she harbored a strong desire for numerous children and a substantial family. Yet she struggled with infertility, and her relationship with her boyfriend had faltered. In a moment of desperation, this atrocious scheme materialized when she learned of her close friend's pregnancy. Megan was intensely envious of Heidi and yearned for pregnancy. She concluded that her friend's child offered the optimal solution to her predicament. She enticed Heidi and the infant into her vehicle and drove them a considerable distance from home. There, she assaulted and asphyxiated her. Then she placed the body in the trunk and returned to her residence with the infant. When the search for Heidi began, Megan feigned distress over her best friend's disappearance, even contacting several local television stations to request media coverage, thereby diverting any suspicion of her involvement. Megan was indicted for the kidnapping of Heidi and the infant, as well as capital murder. It was revealed that Megan had a previous conviction for theft. Megan orchestrated the intricate operation, simulating pregnancy for months and intending to present her friend's newborn as her own. The prosecution posited that Megan had initially planned not merely to abduct the child, but also to lethally dispose of her closest friend to facilitate the kidnapping. She understood from the outset that Heidi would not relinquish the infant willingly and was prepared to commit murder. As stated by one of their mutual acquaintances, Heidi's second pregnancy had been unplanned. At that time, their financial circumstances were arduous and precarious. Initially, she even contemplated terminating the pregnancy. At that moment, Megan implored her not to proceed, even offering to take the child, but her words were not taken seriously. It was universally perceived as a jest. It is conceivable that this plan originated at that very moment. Later, Heidi subsequently abandoned the idea of pregnancy termination. They resolved to keep the child. Heidi's fiancé, Shane, was utterly devastated by this profound loss and found himself adrift, uncertain how to navigate life as a single father of two. The man articulated his suspicions. He maintained that a second individual was implicated in the crime, reasoning that Heidi, being physically larger and stronger than Megan at the time, would have been insurmountable for Megan alone. Shane was convinced that she had an accomplice in the murder. He further found it incomprehensible how Megan could have independently placed Heidi's body into a bag and subsequently into the trunk. Heidi's family likewise posits that Megan received assistance, though they dismissed the possibility of her boyfriend's involvement, given his prior desire to end their relationship and her successful manipulation of him through the false pregnancy. For him, there would have been no motive to abduct another child, as he himself was a victim of Megan's deceit. There is a witness who asserted seeing an additional individual in the car with Megan and Heidi, though unable to discern their face. Megan occupied the front passenger seat, Heidi was in the back, and this unidentified person was driving. But this particular information has never been substantiated. According to Shane, Megan informed both him and Heidi that she had delivered a daughter on December 8th, yet she refrained from showing the child to anyone, including Heidi. Megan abstained from posting photographs of her newborn daughter on her social media, maintaining extreme secrecy. She purportedly claimed to have dreamt of someone stealing her child, instilling such fear that she refused to display the infant to anyone. Heidi had voiced concerns about Megan to her fiancé even prior to her disappearance. She considered it peculiar that Megan did not invite her to the birth, despite Heidi having invited Megan to her own deliveries on 2 separate occasions. Heidi desired to support her friend during such a pivotal moment, and this omission even caused her offense. But Megan stated she was superstitious and preferred not to share that intimate moment with others. Shane, upon reflection, also recalled another peculiarity. When Heidi was being discharged from the hospital, Megan, who was purportedly 37 weeks pregnant, seemed unable to separate herself from the infant, continuously requesting to hold her. She already displayed an unwholesome fascination with the child, though it went unnoticed at the time. It remains unexplained why she left Heidi in the trunk of her vehicle rather than disposing of the body elsewhere. Megan persisted in claiming in court that the child was hers. During a psychiatric assessment, Megan received diagnoses of bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. Nevertheless, she was deemed mentally sound and competent to face trial. During the trial, the weight of evidence unequivocally stacked against the accused, making it manifest that she had meticulously planned and diligently prepared for the murder over several months. Consequently, Megan Faramusco, acting upon her lawyer's counsel, entered into a plea agreement with the prosecution to secure a reduced sentence and avert the death penalty. As a result, she relinquished her right to appeal. The victim's family members endorsed the agreement, seeking to bypass the protracted process of endless appeals. Megan was sentenced to 55 years of imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The presiding judge, during the sentencing, declared that there can be no true justice for this horrific crime. You deprived an innocent child, an innocent baby, of the opportunity to grow up with her mother. You have shattered an entire family. And regardless of the sentence, its length, or its severity, nothing can alter that devastating reality.